Like a backstage pass to the world of fly fishing travel, this is Waypoints, the podcast of destination angling. News and events, helpful travel tips, destination profiles, great stories, and expert advice from some of the most seasoned and experienced names in fishing travel. Waypoints is brought to you by Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures, the industry's #1 specialty travel company for the very best insider knowledge, logistical support, and trip preparation. Freshwater or saltwater, international or domestic, Yellow Dog has you covered for your next fishing adventure. And now, your Waypoints host, Yellow Dog founder and director, Jim Klug.
My guest on part 2 of our Fly Fishing in Ireland series is Andrew Ryan, who I had a chance to record with during a recent fishing trip to Ireland. Andrew is the owner and founder of Clonanav Fly Fishing, a fly shop, outfitter, and guide service that operates on a number of rivers and streams in southern Ireland, including the Suir, Nair, and Tar rivers. Clonanav Fly Fishing is widely recognized as the premier destination for stream fishing in Ireland, offering unparalleled levels of service and some of the most accomplished and seasoned guides in the country. And as I mentioned in part 1 of this series, Andrew and his team are the type of anglers and guides that would excel in any environment, on any trout river in the world. Drop this crew in the middle of Montana, Idaho, or Argentina, and they would be dialed in and setting the standard in no time at all. Andrew himself has been guiding in Ireland and in other international destinations for over 20 years, and he's developed a reputation as one of the best casting instructors, anglers, and operators in all of Europe. This is Jim Klug, host of the Waypoints podcast. Experienced travelers know that gear and equipment selection is everything, especially when you're headed to remote and distant destinations. For more than 20 years, the team at Fish Pond USA has been setting the standard when it comes to luggage design for the traveling angler, with craftsmanship that incorporates sustainable fabrics and functionality derived from decades of experience. When I'm traveling the world or scouting new destinations, I'm traveling with Fish Pond gear, from waterproof duffels to chest packs to all sorts of accessories that make me more effective in the field and on the water. When you take the road less traveled, make sure you're traveling with the very best luggage and accessories. Visit fishpondusa.com to learn more. Andrew Ryan, welcome to Waypoints. Thanks so much for sitting down with us, and thanks for hosting me here in Ireland.
Jim, thank you very much. Great to have you here in Ireland, and great to have you fishing on the rivers.
Well, this has been an incredible experience, and I want to talk all about it. I want to talk about your fishery. I want to talk about where we are. But first of all, you're kind of the fly shop of Ireland. You've got a incredible guide service, a great team of guides. You walk into this amazing shop of yours, and you immediately have this sense of familiar. It looks like a top fly shop you'd find anywhere in the States. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you very much. I suppose we were at this a long time, over 20 years in the business, and it's something we've always strived to do, to have an American style fly shop, because that's what's lacking in Ireland. You get plenty of tackle shops that sell bits and pieces, but not, none of the major brands and the familiarity that you're used to of a proper fly shop. So it's something we've always, I've always admired a lot of the big fly shops in the Western United States, and it's something I wanted to have here in Ireland. It was a dream of mine. So we finally we're getting there. I could never say we're entirely there, but we're trying our best to get there.
Well, in my perspective, you built it. I mean, this place is really amazing. Tell us a little bit about where we are. I mean, we're in County Waterford. What part of Ireland? Explain to our listeners where you're located and where your base of operations is. So
most people, when they think of Ireland and travelling to Ireland, they tend to go to the west coast of Ireland. We're based down in the southeast of Ireland, which is it's slightly different to the west coast of Ireland. It's much slightly warmer climate, better weather, but it's more agricultural land. So we're about 2 hours south of Dublin, and another large city is Cork, which is about an hour away. And people will be familiar with Shannon Airport, which is about just an hour and a half. So we're kind of down in that southeast corner of Ireland, and it's well, the River Suir that we're on is a very well-known river, and that's why we're down here.
That's kind of your main focal point.
That's our main focal point.
Well, I want to talk more about this County Waterford and Nair Valley area in which we're fishing. But first off, we got to hear a little bit more about your story. How did you start in the world of fly fishing as a young man, as an angler? How did you first find your way to the sport?
I suppose it started out, my parents had a bed and breakfast, and because of the rivers we had nearby, as a young kid growing up, a lot of the guests that were staying with us were fly anglers. They were from all over the world. They were French anglers, Spanish anglers, American anglers, and none of my family have ever fished. Nobody, and it's not really a big thing in this area. But I could see the potential, because why were all these people coming to fish our rivers? And I started out tagging along with them, getting lifts down to the river, and slowly I kind of got in, learned to fly fish. And I was fortunate along the way. We also at the bed and breakfast, we ran some fly fishing schools. We had some instructors come in. My parents decided this would be a good idea to boost business. And I was taught to cast by a gentleman called Peter Anderson. He was actually the world distance champion, a Scottish man. He would have been very well known in Ireland and the UK. So he taught me to cast at a very young age. So I was kind of, I was always, I had that leg up in casting. I had been taught by this really superb caster. So I just sort of, continued, and I had this, I could see, in Ireland, all you had at the time would have been gillies, who would have basically take you down to the river and tell you the fish they're there. But I'd always been reading the books, and reading about American guides, and it was a dream of mine to, people thought it was nuts, to think that you would actually make a living out of fly fishing. But slowly, I've been at it 20 years, and slowly but surely have built it up, and we're kind of, nowadays, a lot of people Americans want to come to Ireland, they seem to come to us because there's a familiarity there with the type of rivers we fish and the shop we have, etc. So it's that's basically. And after school, I did journalism in college. I still lived in Spain for a while. I studied Spanish, but this was home, and I always wanted to come back here, set up my book guiding business, and eventually a shop. And yeah, it's grown over time, and I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Well, after university and before you came back here and started your business in Ireland, you also spent some time guiding down in Patagonia.
That's correct. Yes,
you're in your early 20s.
In my early 20s, there was a gentleman who stayed with us. Jim Ripine was his name. He used to run a lodge in Chile, but he had a friend, Martino Farrell, who ran a lodge in Argentina, and he offered me a job down there. And yeah, I guided down there for a season for winter. It was great. It was getting rid of, getting away from the cold winters here in Ireland. And, I probably in another life I may have continued to be down there, but I kind of wanted to set up my own business in Ireland, wanted to set up my own guiding operation. I could see the potential here. And I would have guided with Ran Serrati, who owns Patagonia River Guides. He also guided down there at the same time when it was his first year down there.
So you're down in Argentina, you're working with these American guides that are also doing the seasonal thing down there. And your takeaways from that experience, did it kind of give you a different perspective on coming back here, seeing how those other operations were run and what you could bring to this area?
Absolutely. The more operations you can see how they're run, every day is a school day. You're always going to learn something. And I picked up a lot in those experiences, learned a lot from those American guides, how they operated, how they handled clients, and how they fished, and they were very much on top of their game. And that's the sort of service we'd strive to have as well, that that it's a top level sort of guiding system that we do, and we look after clients. And I learned a lot. Here we were very far behind in that type of guiding. So, but I would say nowadays we're similar enough, if maybe not even a bit better.
Well, there you go. Well, you could have come back and said, all right, the option is I could be an old school traditional Irish gillie. I could have an old school traditional, fishing center or tackle shop. But instead, you're like, no, I'm going to be a focused fly fishing guide. I'm going to open a fly shop in an area that doesn't have one, and singularly focus on that. Talk to me about coming back and setting that up. Was that a long process? Did people think you were nuts?
People thought I was absolutely nuts. I probably could have been more successful as a general fishing tackle shop, and not being specifically into fly fishing. But I don't know whether that would have been true to myself. I have no, I'm very, even in the shop now, I'm kind of I only sell stuff that we will use ourselves, which probably is not the best business way to do things, but I'm very particular about the gear we use, very particular about the stuff we sell, the equipment we sell, rather than just sell it because we're making money out of it. I'd rather, have some little bit of integrity and say, yeah, we stand over this. It's a good product. And same with the guiding. I could have, I probably could have moved up the west of Ireland and become a gillie. But again, I could see the potential in our rivers here and how good they actually are. And because this wouldn't have been a very well-known fishing area, but I could see that because in Ireland, the UK, trout anglers are often considered second-class citizens. The salmon angler is that's where the main people, everybody wants to catch a salmon.
Well, hundreds of years of tradition on
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the river trout angler is often seen as a second-class citizen. They're almost in the way of the salmon angler. But that is slowly changing. You can see that. I mean, the salmon fishing is still fantastic, but there are more and more people, see the benefits of trout river fishing.
Well, especially with the rivers you have around here. I mean, this is some incredibly legitimate trout fishing. Talk to me. You basically operate on 3 rivers in your immediate area, correct?
That's correct, yeah. So we have our main river, which is the River Suir. It's the second longest river in Ireland. It's 114 miles long and has a lot of tributaries along its way. So it drains a huge land basin. So close to us here, we have then one of the main tributaries is the River Nire, which is a small mountain stream, like a freestone river. And it flows from the Cummer Mountains. And we have about 6 miles of fishing on that river. It's more sort of, it's normally when we have high water, it's fast water with deep pockets and deep pools. So it holds some very large trout. Then the other river that we fish is the River Tar, which is a lowland river, very much like a spring creek. And it's very similar in characteristics to an English chalk stream. It doesn't carry as many bigger fish. A lot of the fish tend to be smaller. And the reason for that, we think, is probably the river is actually overpopulated with fish. It has too many fish in it. And therefore the fish tend to be just a smaller size. The Suir then, a lot of the Nire, for example, is a major spawning stream for the River Suir. And it has, the Suir has some quite very large fish. They're not easily caught. They have never been easy to catch. A lot of dry fly fishing, a lot of nymph fishing, and with high water level, and a lot of streamer fishing.
But these are wild, indigenous brown trout.
These are completely wild native fish.
Yeah.
And they're not, as I say, don't be any illusions, they're not easy to catch. You can get times when water's up and they can be a bit easier, but they're picky fish. We're fishing fine tippet. At the moment we're fishing 6x, 7x, and we would probably do better on 8x at the moment. They're that picky, so we have to fish fine tippet. Then the standard tippet we're using is 6x pretty much through the season, except for low water. And yeah, it's just whatever it is, whatever gene they have, they just tend to be picky fish. But it's probably to do with the amount of hatches we have, the number of insects, and they just have plenty to choose from. They don't need the flies we're throwing at them.
It's a bug factory out there. I mean, caddis, mayflies. We were on the water till dark last night, had an amazing session, but there were bugs popping all over the place. Fish rising, not easy fish. Like you said, it's fairly technical, but the fish are big. When they do eat and you hook them, they're super hot, and insects all over the place. For me, Andrew, it felt like it could have been any river in the West that we were fishing last night. We were on the River Suir. We fished the Nire today. These are rivers that are almost pulled out of like the Northern Rockies. It has that sense of the familiar when you're out there as far as what the fish are doing, where they're going to be. But yeah, it's more kind of Henry's Fork, railroad ranch type level technical fishing, which makes it super rewarding.
It is. I mean, that's the beauty of it. I mean, if a lot of anglers will say in Ireland that if you can fish on the Suir and catch fish in the Suir, you can catch them anywhere. And, I would consider that to be a pretty fair statement, because, it does require a level of technicality and a casting ability that you can cast and mend and get a good drift to these fish, because they don't accept drag. They don't accept, they're pretty picky. I suppose the main difference would be all the rivers we're fishing are private, so we have control over them. So you have this quality of fishing, but you don't have any crowds. You don't have any other people. You don't have drift boats floating down with anglers, because you can't actually drift these rivers because the fishing rights are private.
Well, I was going to bring that up and ask you about that. If this were a river, say in a U.S. West state, it'd still be productive. There's a lot of fish in there, but there'd be a lot of anglers. And in this case, not just anyone can drive in, park, show up, and go out and fish these waters. you guys, your business essentially controls the access to these rivers, limits the access, and of course limits the pressure, which probably adds to the fact that it's so darn good.
Yeah, I mean, like, still in Ireland, you have a lot of people that are they're killing fish. It's still not the fully accepted here, catch and release. We started catch and release on our fisheries over 20 years ago, and again, people thought I was nuts. Why would you put back fish? Why would you not bring them home and eat them? And they just couldn't see the potential that if you put the fish back, somebody else can catch them, and they're far more valuable being caught a few times, and they're it's far better for the river to look after it. And the private fishing, some of the fishing we own, some of the fishing we lease, and it's great to have control over the river because we rotate the fishing, we rest it, we don't hammer it all day every day. We're quite regimental in that we don't like to fish it all the time and the fish get hammered, because there's always a limited number of trout there. They're being fished all the time. They just turn off. They get tired of flies being thrown at them. And as I say, it's private access. So in Ireland, for example, you can actually buy the rights to fish. They're a separate deeded property. So you may have a landowner, for example, that may own a stretch of land, but he doesn't own the fishing rights. A lot of the time they go hand in hand, but they are actually a separate property.
It's a confusing system over here. Helps to be a local that's been here a long time. Yeah, it is,
but it's actually it's a great system because, for example, on the River Suir, there's lots of private stretches that we have access to. And then if you're a local, you've access to plenty fishing. You just have to join the local fishing club. You pay an annual fee, and then you've access to all their water.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's very accessible to everybody. You can't really join the fishing clubs unless you're a local. You have to be living in the area. They have that sort of regulation, so they don't allow outsiders to join. For trout fishing, it's pretty easy to join. If you want to join a club for salmon, it's a different story.
It's a wait list.
Always a waiting list. And if they don't like you, the waiting list gets longer. So you keep, you may never get on.
Well, one thing I noticed about these fisheries that you have, Andrew, lots of fish. We saw, healthy populations of small fish, lots of medium fish, and then some absolute dinosaurs swimming around out there. I mean, some of the biggest browns I've seen anywhere, especially in, smaller waters like this. Let's take the River Suir, because this is your main focus, kind of your, I guess, pinnacle water, would you say?
I would say that.
What's kind of the average fish size, and how large have you seen those fish?
First of all, some of those fish, we've actually named them. They've been there. They've been around a while, and we know them by name, and we've hooked them and lost them, and they tend to hang around one year after the next. We know they're there. We know, but they're not easy caught. So your standard fish size, you're looking at sort of 12 to 16 inches will be sort of normal. Lots of smaller fish as well, which is great. We love to see smaller fish. We love hooking smaller fish, and to see, you've noticed that today probably in the rivers, you'll see them. They're just
everywhere.
Thousands of small fish there, which is, it's showing you how healthy the breeding grounds are for the fish, which is another thing we are involved in. We do a lot of, stream works and stuff as well to help, promote on some of the smaller streams, cutting trees and stuff to allow light into some of that's winter projects that we do. But there are large fish there. They're not easily caught. You will see them. We tend to mainly hit those on streamers in higher water, or during the evening time, or during, when you get a good hatch of fly, they start to come up. But larger fish size, we've had fish over 30 inches. They are huge. I mean, they're not. Don't.
That's not the expectation.
Don't rock onto Ireland expecting getting a load of fish that size. You won't. You'll see them. They may actually wave at you and say hello, but then, you may get a handshake off them and they may touch the fly, but landing them is a different story.
Yeah. And
a lot of that may be down to the fact we're fishing fine tippets, and if you don't fish the fine tippet, you don't hook them, and then you do hook them on the fine tippet, you tend to break them. So, but it's still nice. We do land them, we do get them, but it's they're there, but they're not easily caught.
And one thing about your waters, everywhere you go, there's small signs that say fly fishing only, catch and release. Your entire guide team, you guys all fish barbless hooks.
Yes.
Great stewards of this resource.
Absolutely. I mean, we actually not even just crimp the barbs down. We actually have all our flies for the shop now. The majority of the trout flies, we're phasing out barbed hooks, all barbless hooks. And we do find that when you crimp the barb down, the point isn't as long on the barbless hooks actually have longer points and tend to hold the fish and hook them a little better. So, and plus they're much easier to slip out of the fish. They don't do as much harm. So yeah, we'd be very, very big advocates of catch and release.
Well, let me ask you this: who should come to Ireland and fish with you? Who's kind of your ideal angler that's a good fit for this area and for this trout experience?
I mean, it's the access to the water is pretty easy. So if you can have a reasonable ability to cast, and if you're a trout angler, even if you're a reasonably good saltwater angler and you want to get into trout fishing, it's any of the above would do very well here. A lot of we do get wind. We do, it is technical casting, so you would need, a reasonable level of casting ability. However, if it's not that great, we can whip you into shape as well. We're not shy about telling you what to do, so we can help you out with your casting a little bit as well. So, but it's not difficult fishing, as in access. It's not hard on the day. Our typical day would. We start about 9:30, finish about 5 o'clock, so it's not very long days. We have good lunches and everything on the river, and it's nice. It's pleasant fishing. It's actually very pleasant fishing. The weather is, it's nice temperatures. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. So there's a lot to be said for the climate and the accessibility of the fishing.
Well, and your guide team is first rate as well. And you kind of touched on the instruction and the ability to whip you into shape, but the guides on your crew that I've met, I mean, you could take this entire crew and transplant it to any fly shop in West Yellowstone or Livingston or Durango, and they would be completely at home. I mean, these are skilled anglers, great instructors, super technical fishermen. They understand the trout game. This is not a green group of new guides who are kind of figuring out how to guide. I mean, these guys are rock stars.
They'd hate to hear me say it, but I've taught them well.
Well, you have indeed. Well, tell me about a typical trip. Let's say someone listening to this podcast says, well, this is fantastic. I've wanted to go to Ireland anyway. I'm going to go tour around for a week. I'm going to see the sights. And then I want to come and say, do a 5-day package with you. What would be involved in that? Where would people arrive into? How would they get here? What would a typical, say, 5-day package look like for clients?
So there are lots of options. I mean, you can drive in Ireland. You can rent a car easily enough. Some people don't want to do that. We can organise a transfer for you. Most of our clients stay at a local hotel, which is only about 10 minutes from the shop. The Hotel Manila. It's a really nice hotel. It's on the banks of the river. It's family run. The owners actually are very well known horse trainers in Ireland, and they have their own, training facility that you can visit. But on a 4 or 5 day trip, you can do like 6 nights or 7 nights, and you can also build in some, sightseeing, because there's so much to see. The fishing is fantastic, but there's also so much to see. And then one thing we always say to people as well, everything is near. I mean, an hour for us is a long drive. We don't like driving very far. So within an hour of the shop here or of the hotel, you have so much to see. You have Kilkenny Castle, you have the Rocket Cashel, you have Cahir Castle, Waterford Crystal. You can do a whiskey distillery tour. Within 2 hours, you can see the Cliffs of Moher. There's just so much to see. I mean, this is one thing this country does is there's just so much to see, and it's all pretty close. Then fishing wise, within if you want to do 4 days, we can mix it up between the rivers. A day on the Nair, a day on the Suir, a day on the Tar. You can mix it up between the rivers, and then maybe fish a day on one of the rivers you preferred, or if the conditions. We've so many different sections on each of these rivers, and we kind of divide them into beats. So you get your beat for the day. There's going to be nobody else on the beat with you. And so, which is really nice because nobody's been through it already. Nobody's fished through it, and which is, you're not going to get it in many places where for definite nobody's been down there and nobody's fished it and had a run through all these pools before you got there.
Well, it's also super relaxed fishing. You'd be picked up in the hotel in the morning. You drive right to the beat that you're fishing, typically park right along the river. You get out, you wade her up, the guides rig the rods. You might walk, 50 yards down to the pool where you're going to start. It's very refined. The food is unbelievable. I think I've gained 10 pounds this week since I've been in Ireland.
I don't know, is it the food or the Guinness?
Well, we'll talk about the Guinness in a second because that's next level. I mean, that's reason enough to come to Ireland alone. But just a really well-run program. You guys think of everything. You suffer for nothing at all when you're here fishing with you guys. And you touched on all the things to see in County Waterford, but unbelievable couples trip or family trip where there are some non-anglers involved. Come and see Ireland, travel around Ireland, experience all the amazing history and heritage of this country, and find some incredible trout fishing for however many number of days you want to add that into your itinerary.
Yeah, so you can mix it with the tour, you can with sightseeing. So that's the great thing about it. You can, if you want to come for a week, 10 days, you can do a few days, 4 or 5 days trout fishing, or if it's a week, 2 or 3 days trout fishing, and you can do sightseeing the other days. And even from our base here, there's so much to see. There's so much, it's only 2 hours from Dublin, so it's very easy to get here. It's just, as that type of trip for as you say, for couples, families, it's very, very easy.
And obviously, we recommend the packages because that's the way to really experience the fishing, enjoy some success, come away having learned a lot throughout that experience. But you guys will also do single day trips if people just want to get out for a day while they're here.
We do those as well. But we kind of, with the packages, you have more time. You just, the day trip, you don't really, it's all very rushed. So you really need a few days to experience it all, to really, have some time and relax and enjoy it. And as you said, which we probably take for granted, is, how close the fishing is. It's literally from our shop here, the river is only a mile. So it's like less than 5 minutes in the car. And then the shore, for example, it's only another 5 minutes. Everything's really close. We can park on the riverbank, or we can park on the bridge. It's only a short walk and you're into the river. So it's not taxing on the body. It's very easy, easy and relaxed.
Well, one of my favorite experiences this week has been fishing on the Nire River. And to describe the setting, it's a small stream and it's low water right now because it's late season. But there's this ancient bridge that crosses, which has some amazing history in and of itself. It's probably around since the 1600s or whatever.
It is.
Overlooking the pool next to the bridge is a pub that's equally as old. There is a B&B right across the river. So you could actually be in one area and have the most amazing Irish experience ever. And last night we fished till dark and then walked up, went into the pub and drank pints for another couple hours. And just the overall kind of character of this experience is second to none. It's one of the neatest, most unique trips. And such a part of it here in Ireland is that history and the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we just take it for granted. We look at a bridge, we don't even take any notice of it. It's been there, 400 or 500 years. It doesn't really, even today, like the church that was down by the shore, I mean, it's pointed out to us, but we don't really, we're so used to it, and that's what we've always known. But yeah, you will just see history everywhere. I mean, the bridge you talked about, that was an interesting story. So the bridge, I think it was 1640 it was built, but just before the bridge was built, there was a carriage crossing. There was a ford at the river, just a crossing at the river, and a horse and carriage got swept away in one of the high water floods there. And it was a young boy who was travelling in it with his driver, a coach driver, and he got swept. The whole coach got swept downstream, and he was pulled out of the stream out of the river by a local man and saved. And it turns out this man, he was the son of Lord Cork, and his name is Robert Boyle, so he's the father of modern science. So Boyle's Law. So shortly after that, because of the gratitude of Lord Cork for having his son being saved, he paid for a bridge to be built over the river. Now, the initial bridge that was built was a wooden structure, but I think 2 years after that, with high water again, we get raging floods on this river. It was washed away. So then in his will, he left money to have an actual stone bridge built. Because Robert Boyle was saved there, and that's the bridge we were on today. That still stands. After all these years, it's still perfect.
And underneath the bridge live some amazing fish.
Absolutely. They may have been still, they were probably there when, their ancestors were there when Robert Boyle was there. But yeah, it's we're kind of used to those kind of stories. It's not, that's kind of normal here. It's just such a history and heritage.
And you guys have a season here. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have by law we have a season. So our season opens on the 17th of March and ends on the 30th of September. So it's a short enough season, but it's the rest of the time our rivers, these are native fish, so they're all spawning in the winter time. The salmon run up our rivers to spawn. So they're left alone during that close season. So March is when the season opens. Can be a cold month, so we tend to kick off our guiding in April, and the weather's starting to pick up. We're starting to get some leaves on the trees, and you're getting some hatches, and the water warms up a bit. So April can be a good month. The trout tend to be a bit more naive. They haven't been fished at all, so we get a hatch in. It's not a hatch; it's more of a fall of an insect called a hawthorn fly. It's like a black fly, and towards the end of April, and it can be great sport. They've got little legs hanging down. They look like a little black hopper. And then in May, it really picks up. You get much better hatches. A lot of it is daytime fishing or right during the daytime. Then we don't get any, in this section we are here on the shore, we don't get many Danica mayflies, but you do a little bit further up, which can be well worth fishing. And then we have into June, then it really kicks off our fishing, with longer days. I mean, here in June at midsummer, it's light till about 11 p.m. So it's because we're quite far north, and you can have really good evening fishing, but the daytime fishing is very good. June, July can be excellent hatches, great fishing. Then into August, still very good. September can be excellent. The days are starting to shorten up, and you can get back into sort of really good dry fly fishing during the day. Hatch-wise, sort of May, June and July, we get a lot of blue-winged olives, a little spurwing, which is like a little trico, and we get a lot of caddis. So there's good hatches. They're very good hatches during those months. September then, which has come in is great month as well. The days shorten, but we have a fall of daddy longlegs.
Which is like a crane fly?
Crane fly, yeah, we call them daddy longlegs. So it's great sport in the river because they, if you get nice warm day with a bit of sunshine, and they get blown out of the river, they're almost like hoppers. The trout go crazy for them. So it's great dry fly action. So that's in September. So, and then our season closes at the end of September.
Well, and I noticed, I brought several boxes of flies over, and everything that I have from at home in Montana is close, but it's not exactly what you guys want to be fishing. You've developed a lot of your own unique patterns that, again, super familiar because we have similar hatches, but that insider local knowledge that makes these flies just deadly over here.
Yeah, we just tweaked them a little bit just to suit what we're doing. I mean, our nymphs are similar, but they're probably a little smaller and a little heavier. We want that small size, but we want that weight so that when you cast those out, that they're fishing instantly, when you're not waiting for them to drop down for fishing on a dry and dropper. The dries we use a lot of clink hammers to fish our dry and dropper, and those they're on a barbless hook, and we have a little tippet ring tied into the body, and you hang your dry fly, your nymph off those, so they work very well. Similarly with the dries, we just tweak stuff a little bit ourselves. We have a lot of stuff custom tied for the shop, and I wasn't entirely happy with some of the stuff that's on the market and some of the companies are making, so we've tweaked it just to improve it and make it a little bit better.
And the cool thing is people can show up here with nothing as far as gear, equipment. You have it all. You provide it all. Obviously, as a full-service fly shop, you sell all the fly patterns, the tippet, the leader, everything you're going to need. But you also have waders and boots that people can use?
Yes, we do, yeah. So we can supply all the gear as well. So if you want to travel, if you want to fish if you're on a trip from Ireland for a week and you want to fish for 2 days, rather than bringing all the gear with you, we can supply all the gear as well.
Well, and one thing that we didn't talk about, we were talking about kind of your three main trout rivers, a lot of focus on that. But this morning, we went out super early. We got a couple hours of swinging for Atlantic salmon. So you do have that available as well.
We do have that, yeah. I mean, we have two rivers close by. The Suir is very good for salmon, but we also have the River Blackwater, which is only 30 minutes from us. And that's excellent as well. It's dependent on water. We have fish in the river at the moment. We saw a lot of fish this morning showing, but those fish are in the river with a few weeks, and they become stale and they don't take. What we need is some, when we get some rain, you get fresh fish running in, and the fishing can be fantastic. And so it's not something everybody has or everybody wants to travel with. Is a double hander. We tend to have those if you want them for use for guiding as well. And it's the way I would, salmon fishing is very unpredictable. So I would, decide on your trip for trout, and trout is your main quarry. But if the conditions are right, and you want to put in a day salmon fishing, and we think it's worth your while, we can easily arrange that as well.
Well, the trout fishing is worth the trip in and of itself, without question. Are you happy with the development of trout fishing in this area? I mean, are you looking ahead to the future, and are you confident about what you guys have implemented as far as conservation? Is the future bright for this particular area of Ireland?
I think it is bright. I mean, everywhere, we have environmental issues everywhere you go. And I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be right. We have to make the best of what we have. We do have, like everywhere, we have pollution. We have, there's problems with agriculture, but it's still, the river seems to be holding up. They seem to be very resilient, the rivers. I mean, you could say the same about Montana. There's always going to be outside influences on the river. We're never going to be entirely happy, but there are some, here they fence off a lot of the rivers, and we have a lot of hedgerows along the rivers. The farmers, they can get a grant for that. And so if they keep you'll notice that we have a lot of the fences are a little bit back, which is really good help, and that's been a big plus to the rivers. It helps with the bugs and it helps with the hatches. The cattle don't go directly into the water, so that has been a huge thing for the rivers. But I think the future is bright for the River Suir. I think that there's been, if you go back maybe 20 years ago, I would say the river was probably in a worse condition than it is now. It's if anything, it probably has improved.
Well, to me, this week has been reminiscent of maybe going to Iceland for the brown trout there, because they have phenomenal brown trout fishing in the northern part of Iceland. 8-10 years ago, not very many people knew about it, and very few people were going to focus on the trout. I have a feeling, and if you look at it now, it's kind of discovered. People are going. It's a known thing. I have a feeling that that's probably going to happen over here in the next few years. Word's getting out about the trout fishing you guys have, how legitimate it is, and more people are probably going to start making this trip.
Yeah, I mean it's good, but I suppose we're lucky insofar as the fishing is private, so it won't ever explode. We don't want it to. We like a relaxed lifestyle. We'll only take the amount of bookings we want, and just to keep ourselves busy. We don't want to put too much pressure on the fish, so we're trying to keep it, nice and exclusive, nice and tight, the numbers on it, and not to have it hammered. We don't want that. So we are looking at the moment. We've just, this year we got a new beat. Next year we have some more water. We're lining up, so just to have, give a bit more spread of our fishing across more water.
Well, if there is a couple things that you could tell someone who is planning a trip to come over and fish with you, some pieces of advice, things they can work on or prep before they come, what would that advice be? Well,
one of the main things you're going to need to bring to Ireland anyway is definitely a rain jacket. I mean, you haven't seen it here, but I mean, we get days here where it rains and weeks where it looks like it's never going to stop. So one thing, no matter what anyone tells you, bring a rain jacket with you to Ireland. Definitely, I mean, brush up on your casting. Make sure that it's none of this is, you're not casting far. You want to be able to cast 50 feet, but cast it well. I always say you're better off to have, one good cast than 20 bad ones. If you put that one good cast over the fish, no point doing 10 bad casts over a fish and then do one good cast and wonder why you didn't get a fish when you've scared all the fish away. The other thing I would do before you come is brush up on your Guinness drinking skills as well. Very important.
Bring your A game.
Absolutely.
They don't mess around in Ireland.
No, we don't. Yeah. We don't take prisoners.
What? I'm at home, or you travel the world, you go into a pub, you order a Guinness. It's always pretty good. You come to Ireland, and it is exponentially better. No matter what little pub you're in, it's just so good over here. Why is that? Explain that to us.
Well, there's a few reasons, I suppose. One, it's always said Guinness doesn't travel well. As Irish, we've travelled all over the world, but Guinness doesn't travel. And the other thing is, we have all the pubs here. Guinness themselves have a quality control team that go around to all the pubs with little vans, checking the taps and making sure the quality is right. So it's a really big deal here. If you go into a pub and you get one bad pint of Guinness there, you're not going back. So the pubs have to bring their A game and make sure the Guinness is good.
How can I get that job? I think in my next lifetime I want to come back as a Guinness quality control checker.
Yeah, that'd be a taster or quality control would be the dream job.
Well, it's been a phenomenal trip, and I really appreciate you sitting down and talking about County Waterford, the trout fishing you guys have here. How can people find out more about your business, learn more about the opportunities to come and fish with you guys?
Well, you're very welcome to contact us online, or I'm sure they can contact your company, and you'll be more than willing to help them and tell them everything they need to know.
Well, again, such an impressive operation. First class, amazing guides. a really, really well-stocked fly shop. It could be, as you said, anywhere in the Western U.S. You guys are doing it right and delivering an amazing experience, and super grateful for the opportunity to come over here and spend time with you and fish your waters. So thanks again for hosting me.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. I really enjoyed having you here.
All right, Andrew Ryan, Clonanav Fly Fishing.
This has been another episode of Waypoints, the podcast of fly fishing travel and adventure angling. Waypoints is produced by Brian Gregson, with music provided by the Steep Canyon Rangers. Visit yellowdogflyfishing.com for more destination profiles, travel news, and expert advice, and be sure to join us for our next episode.